Hurrah! Hurrah, gang, hurrah! What up, everybody? Welcome to the Meaning Stream. You can all stop speculating and lurking around on weird telegrams and things or whatever it is you're doing right now. Never mind all that. Never mind that. It is time for the vibe regulation, by Jove. It's regulation o'clock. Vibe regulation o'clock. It's Meaning Crisis and Chill with Akira The Don and Vervaeke John. By Jove. Hurrah! Smash that like, gather round, brothers and sisters, gather around the old campfire. If you would like to skip ahead to the event itself, there will be a timestamp in the description of the broadcast. But for the rest of you that love some preamble, or those who are locked in live and have no choice in the matter, hold tight, baby. Relax, don't give in to astonishment. Hold on to your pillow. Giveth ye not into astonishment. It's a beautiful day to be alive. Oh! Hurrah, hurrah, hurrah. Hey, what's cracking? Wave Nation's in the house. That's right, Stronghold 828. How you doing, baby? Good to see you. Good to see you, Biological Bootloader. Good to see you, Mason. Good to see you, Mikey Mike. Good to see you, Sway. What up, Riley Aaron? Hey, everybody. Backstreet's back. Well, maybe. I don't know if they are or not, but I know that we are. We're back. We're right here. Robert Easley, we're going to regulate those vibes, by Jove. Let there be righteousness. Rachel Tracy was first. First like. Really? Really? That's amazing. That's very incredible. If you were first like, incredible, incredible. Proud of you. ÄkaSora says tonight is going to be great. Input equals output. That's what I've been telling myself. I can't wait to hear Mr. Vervaeke's take on it. I respect him so much. Vervaeke John and Akira The Don, Meaning Crisis and Chill, baby. We're going to get after it. We're going to get after it. Yes, we are. It's going to be wonderful. Yes, it is. What's up, Fool Killer? What up, David? What up, Jules? What up, ES? What up, Rubik's? Shouts out to the whole crew. Is Maria Lezak in the building? Is Maria Lezak in the house? Mikey Mike's in the house. He says, hello. I have not been here live. I have been catching up on replays. Good for you. Boom, boom, boom. All right, smash that like. We're about to go in. Where is Maria Lezak? How's Maria Lezak is always here. Where is she? Canada. Wifey went to the UPS. We haven't been to the UPS since just before Christmas to check our, what's it called? Thing, P.O. Box. P.O. Box, and there's loads of stuff in the P.O. Box, and there's a thing from Maria Lezak, and she was saying, have you checked your P.O. Box? And we hadn't, and now we have. And we've got something from Maria Lezak that I wanted to open on stream, you know. It's not here. Look, it's a Christmas present. It's not even Christmas. How nice is that? Christmas present. It's not even Christmas. What a time to be alive. Sergio says we need a polka. Yeah, we need some magic doing. What up, Metaphor Junkie says, Maz is the truth. Buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. May the gods keep us in this new wholesome era. Decentralization, baby. Exactly. Exactly. Exactly, Metaphor Junkie. Decentralization all day. Well, it's my second day of not having Twitter on my phone, and I've got to say it feels really, really good. I read a bunch more of my Plato book and enjoyed it very much. Reading a Plato book instead of reading people's hot takes. Very cool. Very cool. Enjoying it very much. Particularly, I'm sure, like today, I bet everyone's takes are trash. Someone just sent me Alex Jones's new hot take. Did you see that? I mean, it looks like he's doing a bit. He looks like he's doing a bit. He looks like he's containing all of his mirth all at once, you know? What's that letter? R, S, T, V, Z, one of them. That guy off Star Trek that has been posted on message boards, apparently. Who Alexander the Jones said it was a LARP, you know. Said it was some live-action role-playing game. He's put out a video saying, I was wrong. That letter of the alphabet was right. 11 a.m. tomorrow, but he's got this look about him. He's got this saucy look about him, you know. Like, what are you up to? What are you up to, Jones? What are you up to? Oh, all manner of shenanigans being enacted out there. I'm reading my Plato book. I'm having nothing to do with none of their nonsense. D-Man says that Ethereum kicked some butt. What, today is Ethereum getting after it? Hurrah! Hurrah! You know, I left the house. Did I say I left the house? Left the house, went out and got gas. Make sure we got gas. You know, it's important to have gas for your gas-powered power system so you can still do streams. You know, if some weird shit happened and the power went, I would still be able to do a stream because I've got like a gas-powered power thing. How about that? You know, I'm always thinking of you guys. Always thinking of you. Anyway, it looks like Maria Lezak is not here right now, which is just shocking behavior. So it means we can't really open the gift without her. That would be rude. That would be rude. So we won't do that. We will do the international high five. Then we will get the blessed glory after it. We will get the blessed glory after it, by Jove. Shouts out to everyone who was here this morning. We had another epic stream this morning. Very joyful. We were in the 80s. If you missed that one, I'd check out the replay if you want an epic 80s set. It was an epic 80s set. You know, we did 2 hours of epic, joyful 80s glory. The visuals was on point too. Thank you to everyone who was there, contributing wonderful energy. It really is a wonderful thing to just wake up and get after it, you know? All right, international high 5 o'clock. International High 5 o'clock. What do we want to know today? What do we want to know today, hey? All right, for the International High 5, give me your predictions for tomorrow. The more outlandish and nonsensical and creative, the better. Just predictions for tomorrow. Could be anything. Could be anything. Toasters start falling out of the sky. I don't know. Let me know where on earth you are and what are your predictions for tomorrow. Hurrah! Hey! Did the CIA director just resign? Is it true that the My Pillow guy was in a meeting about getting rid of the CIA director a couple of days ago? Is that the timeline we're supposedly on? I just can't be paying attention to this nonsense. ÄkaSora says, Akira The Don, what would you be like? In what context? That's not a full question. You need more of a question. ÄkaSora's got a prediction for tomorrow. Says it will be a great day. Woo! Hey! Metaphor Junkie is predicting Elvis and Bigfoot taking over as president and VP. Nice. Jake, so happy I'm caught up so I can listen live to John and the Don. Kansas City in the house. Prediction for tomorrow. The sun will rise and it will also set. You, Craig, that's crazy talk. That's crazy talk. That's not what I read on 17chan. 17chan says the sun is actually a light. It's not the sun, it's just a light reflecting through some ice. So you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah. Sun doesn't rise, sort of wibbles. Hey, D-Man Tri-State, it will be the end of the world, but I'll feel fine. Hurrah! That's the ticket. That's the ticket, my guy. Anthony Wall, ED 2009. Oh, it's just going too fast, the chat. Hey. All right, D-Man, Tri-State, end of the world, but I'll feel fine. Very good, Anthony Wall. ED 2009 is revealed and protects the capital. David S., Greater LA area. Extraterrestrial life confirmed when they land in my house. Yo, you better have some snacks. Suja says, push-ups in the basement. Tomorrow will be a great day. Woo! Yeah, I got a feeling. Robert Easley, Chicago. We will officially start being a police state because of some glow-in-the-dark assault on the inauguration. Yay! ÄkaSora, Akira The Don, it was a high 5 question suggestion, but you were too quick. Oh, I am very speedy. Rachel Tracy, there's cocaine hippos taking over Colombia. Oh, good. Thank goodness for that. Rachel Tracy says, thanks to Pablo Escobar. Oh, okay. Strong School 28, prediction, putting up more drywall tomorrow. Get after it! John Hannibal Smith, tomorrow Alex Jones will unplug you from a machine like in the Matrix and say you failed the test. Not me, baby. I'm failing nothing. Straight A's. Cindy Bailey. Mr. T gets banned from Earth, moves to Mars with Elon Musk. Elon Musk. Been hanging out with Joseph Rogan. Joseph Rogan posted a nice picture on his Instagram of hanging out with Dave Chappelle and Elon and that little Grimes Lass and a whole bunch of people. Looking very cute. Yeah! That Austin Illuminati. Zach Sauer, Boston, Massachusetts. Tomorrow, Warhammer 40k will stop being sci-fi and will become sci-fact. The world as a whole will discover that MEANINGWAVE exists. Well, tomorrow is that the day? Oh, I can't wait. I mean, I can. I'm happy to wait, and then I'm happy to enjoy. I like being in the moment. Zach Sauer, Boston, Massachusetts. Hello. You already did this. Fool Killer, Maryland. Tomorrow will be the time I overcome my genetics to have a mullet. Get after it. My mullet is doing incredible stuff right now. It's all curly. It's so voluminous and curly. You know, it's just wonderful. I'm not stunting, by the way. I mean, I am. Biological bootloader, Colorado. Randy Quaid, Polish parrot. Randy Quaid, parachutes into inauguration ceremony from an alien craft. I'll check on him. He follows me on Twitter, you know. I'll ask if he's going to do it. E.S. Taylor, hey, all by Don memes are going to be epic. Corn pop. I'm staying off the internet tomorrow. Actually, no, we're doing the biblical series. There you go. E.S. Taylor, Walking Mall Park, Virginia. I predict tomorrow things will proceed without much disruption. That's a nice prediction. Very sexy time. Sexy time predictions. Yeah. Sounds good to me. Dylan Thomas, love wins eternal. Good prediction. E.S. Taylor. Something about pudding. 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 Sagittarius says, my kid's school has been offering counseling for students traumatized by recent events. Should offer them giant rocks to pick up. That's what it should offer them. Giant rocks to pick up and slingshots, you know, slingshots with which to sling shots. That's all you need if you're a kid. Big rock to pick up on some slingshots. Let's do an international high five. Oh! 3, 2, 1.
Relax, relax, don't give in to astonishment. Relax, relax, don't give in to astonishment. Relax, relax. Woo.
Hey. Good news. Signed off on another album. It's amazing. I listened to it earlier, you know, bloody hell. Absolute glory. Glory and triumph and wonder and... I am so excited for you guys to hear it all. Oh my goodness. Hey, new album this week. Who is excited to hear a new MEANINGWAVE album this week from Akira The Don and Jordan B. Peterson? Who is excited? Make some noise in the chat if you are excited. Thursday night, we're getting after it. Thursday night, we're getting after it. JBPWAVE Aesthetic, Akira The Don and Jordan B. Peterson coming to for the first time on vinyl. Vinyl, it's going to be on vinyl. Yes, it is. Chat goes wild. Chat's going crazy. Yeah, that's right. Mason says, I want to get that hoodie. Get that goody hoodie. Oh, Douglas Holloway, what's cracking, baby? How you doing? Sway, what's up? Everyone's excited, everyone's gassed, everyone's super excited, and yeah, you're going to be able to get it on vinyl for the first time. We're also making the album, the classic album JBPWAVE Genesis, available on vinyl too. Pre-order your vinyl right now at the Indiegogo campaign. The vinyl is going to be double vinyl, each one, 2 pieces of vinyl, a gatefold sleeve. Gatefold means it folds. Lyric book. Everyone's package comes with a bonus 7-inch single. Be a plumber on 7-inch single. Our next stretch goal, we're aiming at 34K, at which point we will hire an orchestra to play on one of the songs from the next JBPWAVE album, which will be coming very soon because that was part of the stretch goals. Get JBPWAVE 3 The Mix turned into a brand new album. Let's see how we're doing on our epic voyage. Oh, look at that, baby. We are $1,490 away from an orchestra. Ah! Amazing! I'm so proud of this community. Matt Marucho says, I got all the vinyl. What, you got the all the vinyl package? There's really not many of them left either. There's 8 of those left without Monolith, and then with Monolith, there's 9. That's 17 in total. If you want the whole package, the Alan Watts, those are first pressings. First pressings right there, and the JBPWAVE and Akira The Don. Amazing. Cool. Wonderful. Thank you to everyone who's backed this campaign, and thank you to everyone who's supporting this campaign and making these dreams come true, these wonderful dreams of MEANINGWAVE vinyl and orchestras. Just absolutely epic. Glorious, wonderful. Homerian activities in 21. Relax. Giveth ye not. Into bestumpment. All right, boom. Hey, Grant Kelly, welcome to level 1. Grant Kelly at level 1. I lost my foghorn noise, but I did gain this noise. Further ado, be gone. None more of ye. None more. Meaning Crisis and Chill with Vervaeke, John, and Akira The Don. Part 9. Inside.
Welcome back to Awakening from the Meaning Crisis. So last time we continued looking through the myth of Siddhartha's awakening, and we talked about him leaving the palace, the having mode, his attempt to recover the being mode, and the difficulty he faced in pursuing self-denial as passionately as he had pursued self-indulgence, and why this ultimately failed, because it's still working within the same operation of trying to have a self. And then we looked at Siddhartha's commitment to the middle path, an attempt to overcome that through the cultivation of mindfulness, and then we began our exploration of mindfulness. We first looked at what it meant, sati, and it's this deep remembering, this recovering of the being mode that leads to a fundamental transformation and alleviates the existential anxiety and distress that Siddhartha was experiencing and potentially is on offer for us. And then we started to take a look at that, the practice of mindfulness and its attempt to address at least an individual or personal experience of a meaning crisis. And we were doing that because we were trying to investigate more broadly the mindfulness revolution and how that is a response to the meaning crisis within the West. We began by noting that the study of mindfulness is misleading in some ways, the scientific study, because it begins with a feature list. And as we've noted multiple times, feature lists leave out the IDOS, the structural functional organization. In order to do that, we brought out 4 sort of central characteristics in the feature list: being present, not judging, insightfulness, and reduced reactivity or an increased equanimity. And then we noted that what we need to do is to make distinctions between the types of features, between those that are states that we can engage in, actions we can perform, and traits we can cultivate. Once we did that, we opened up the possibility of asking causal questions. How can the practice of being present, for example, produce the trait of insightfulness? And then we also could ask constitutive questions. What's the relationship, the part-whole relationship, for example, between being present and not judging? That being said, we then also noted that we have to replace the language of training with the language of explaining. They operate according to different principles and for different goals. And we began that by starting to ask, what does it mean to be present? And then we talked about concentration. We talked about different senses of that and the kind of soft vigilance that's actually conducive of insight, discussed by Alan Langer and others. This kind of involvement is very much about conforming to, inter-essay, becoming deeply interested, connected to the structural functional organization of something. We noted that took us into a discussion of paying attention, and all the while remembering this idea that we got from Siddhartha Gautama's story about tuning, getting the right tuning, optimization. And we started to talk about attention, and I made the argument that attention is not very well served by the spotlight metaphor. While that metaphor does give us the idea of attention altering salience, the metaphor misses a lot of what attention is doing. We began to investigate what's missing by making use of Christopher Moll's idea that attention is not a direct action you perform by walking, but it's something you do by modifying something else, by optimizing something else. That's why you can successfully pay attention by doing many disparate and different kinds of things. You can pay attention by optimizing your seeing into looking, by optimizing your hearing into listening, by optimizing your seeing and listening into a coordinated tracking of what somebody is saying, like you're doing right now. All of those are different ways in which we're paying attention. So what we needed was an understanding of attention that could capture the way it's an optimization strategy, which lines up with this tuning idea, and how such optimization might be linked to a response to existential modal confusion and the alleviation of the suffering found therein. So I want to continue that discussion about attention and start to point towards what might be going on. If you remember, Moll talks about this idea of cognitive unison, getting a bunch of processes to share a goal, to be coordinated together in some fashion. Now he leaves it abstract like that, and I think we should try and investigate a little bit more further, more concretely, what that might mean. And there's a lot. Attention is one of the hottest areas in cognitive science right now. There's a lot of good work done by Frank Wu, by Sebastian Watzel, Christopher Moll. Just many people are talking about this, and I'm not pretending to canvas all of that rich and very fertile and very it's very creative. It's advancing. I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to pick up on some key themes here, because what we want to understand is how can mindfulness train attention so as to cause more insight, to make one more dispositionally capable of insight. Because after all, and we've talked about this before, when we're talking about wisdom, we're not talking about an individual insight. We're talking about a systematic set of insights that are mutually related to a fundamental transformation of the person's, as we said last time, existential mode. So let's talk a little bit more again about what's missing from the model of attention. So this cognitive unison, I think we can make use of another important cognitive scientist, philosopher, scientist who did work on attention, and that's Michael Polanyi. And he pointed out that attention has an important structure, and we've been trying to follow the Platonic idea of turning the feature list into a feature schema, picking up on structures. And the way, in order to bring out what Polanyi is talking about, I'm going to run through an experiment with you. An experiment you can sort of follow along with me. So let me describe it to you first. I need you to get some object like a pencil or a pen, and we will call that your probe. Nothing untoward is meant by that. That's just what it's called in psychology. It doesn't involve any aliens doing graphic things to your body or anything like that. So what we're going to do is, let me describe it to you first. Okay, so what I'm going to ask you to do, I'm going to ask you to find some object that you could put on a desk in front of you or hold in your hand. And then you're going to do the following. Do not start yet, because I want to describe it to you. I'm going to ask you to tap on the object as if you were blind and you're trying to figure out what the object is. Its shape, its structure, its weight, its density. Oh, that's a cup, right? That makes sense. Now, it's important now you should close your eyes as you're doing this. I'm using touch because touch is slower than sight. And so you can become more aware of what's happening. Now, it's important while you do this that you continue tapping. So I'm going to ask you in a moment to close your eyes, start the tapping, and then while you're doing it, continue the tapping as you are following my instructions. And this will give you a sense of what you're doing. Okay, so what I want you to do is close your eyes. You start tapping on your object, right? Start tapping until you start to form an image of the object in your mind. Okay, so your eyes are closed. You're starting to get an image of what that object is in your mind. Okay, so right now you're aware, like you're focally aware. What you're focusing your awareness on is the object. I want you to keep tapping, but I want you to shift your awareness into your probe. Feel how your pencil or your pen is moving around, shifting. Okay, keep tapping, and then I want you to shift your awareness into your fingers and feel how your fingers are moving around, shifting around. Okay? Some of you may be able to pick up on the individual feelings that are occurring in your fingers. Now, go back and feel your fingers, your thumb, how they're moving. Now feel how the probe is moving. And now, allow the tapping to reveal the object to you once again. So I've done this multiple times with people. And what's interesting is the following thing. Most people find this very readily easy to do. And a couple things. When you're initially tapping, for example, I was aware of my cup, but then my awareness moves into my marker, and then my awareness moves into my finger. And when my awareness is in my finger, I'm not aware of the cup at all. Then I was able to reverse it. I go from being aware of my fingers to being aware of the probe to being aware of the cup. You're saying, what's all this about? What's going on? Well, there's an important structure. Let's take a look at it step by step. So here's the cup, or whatever your object was, right? And I'm tapping on it with my probe, okay? Now here's the interesting thing. It's not like I was completely unaware of my probe, because if I was completely unaware of it, I couldn't manipulate it. But I wasn't actually aware of it. I was aware through it. I was aware through my probe of the cup. So I'm aware through this, and I'm aware of this. So it's like my probe is transparent to me. And let me give you an analogy right now, where this is opaque. Right? Here's the analogy. Think about, and we talked about this before, but let's do it again. And it's just, like my glasses are like my framing, right? My glasses are transparent to me in the sense that I'm looking through them, beyond them, by means of them. They're transparent to me. But what I can do is I can redirect my awareness so that I'm now looking at my glasses rather than through them. So my glasses have now become opaque to me. So I can do a transparency to opacity shift. Now, what does that ability to shift indicate? Well, this is part of Polanyi's idea. Here's my probe. I'm aware through my probe. He has what I call a subsidiary or an implicit awareness. Because I'm aware through it. I'm not aware of it. I'm aware through it, right, of my focal object, for example, my cup. And this, I have a focal awareness or an explicit awareness. Now his point, which is really quite good, right, is that attention is this kind of structuring phenomena. what it is, it's always attention, as he says, from to. It's an attention through subsidiary awareness into focal awareness. When I'm paying attention, I'm doing this. But here's the interesting thing. I was then able to step back and make this focal, right? And now it's my fingers that I'm aware through my fingers of my probe. And then I can even step back and be aware of my feelings, what some people would call sensation. So I can keep stepping back and stepping back. So I'm looking at the cup through my probe. Now I'm looking through my fingers at the probe, and now I'm looking through my feelings at my fingers. And of course, the whole time I was actually looking at the cup, I was doing all of that. I was looking through my feelings, through my fingers, through my probe, into the cup. And you see, the spotlight metaphor is missing all of that layered, recursive, dynamic structuring that's going on. And notice you can move in both directions. You can do a transparency opacity shift, in which I step back more and more into my mind, or I can go the opposite way. I can do an opacity to transparency shift. That's when you went the opposite way. That's when you go from looking at your fingers to looking through your fingers at your probe, and going from looking at your probe to looking through your probe to the cup. And your attention is doing that all the time, flowing in and out, doing a transparency and opacity shifting. Now, that's very important, because that's an important, what you're seeing is how many different processes are being coordinated, integrated together to optimize and prioritize, to use an important term from Watzel, this particular object or this particular scene or situation. So that's one way in which attention is operating. Now, for reasons I'm not quite sure of, I think it has to do something with, we're using a visual metaphor and the way vision is oriented in our bodies. We tend to use an in-out metaphor for this. Like, that's why I'm using stepping back and looking at, as opposed to like looking through. Notice also something that's really important for where we're going to need this when we talk about gnosis and participatory knowing. Notice when I was, if you'll allow me, when I was knowing the cup through the probe, I'm indwelling the probe, right? It's not like I'm participating in how the probe is being with respect to the cup. I'm sort of indwelling it. I'm not knowing the probe, I'm knowing through the probe. I'm inter-esse. I'm so deeply interested that I'm actually integrated with it and through it into the cup. The way my vision is integrated with these glass lenses, so that I'm actually seeing through them and by means of them. Now the point about this, and we've talked about this before, of course, is this also works not with just technology, but psychotechnologies. We talked about this with second order thinking. You can so integrate literacy, for example, into your cognition that you don't look at literacy very much, you automatically look through it. We'll come back to that. All right, so this is, as I said, this seems to be, people talk about this metaphorically as moving in and out with their awareness. So one of the ways attentions work is it moves in and out. You can, look through a lot of processing deeply out into the world, or you can step back and look at a lot of processing and withdraw towards the center of your mind. There's another important axis upon which your attention is working, and I can bring it out by a famous example. Right? So you give this to people and you ask them to read it, and they say, what does it say? And they'll say, the cat. And they're like, oh yeah. Right? And then you point out to them that they're reading this as an H, and they're reading this as an A, and these are exactly the same thing. Why are you reading one is an H and the other is an A? And so what they'll typically say to you is, well, because it fits in with this word as an H, and it fits in with this word as an A. So let's use language we've already developed. The letters are the features, and the word is the gestalt, the overall structure. Now notice here, you've got a problem. It's almost, a pseudo-Zen problem. In order to read the words, I must read each individual letter, But in order to disambiguate each letter, I must have read the whole word. Therefore, reading is impossible. Now, of course, reading isn't impossible, which means something else has to change. What has to change is your model of attention. The searchlight metaphor, the spotlight metaphor, can't address that problem. Here's what your attention is actually doing. It's simultaneously going up from the features to the gestalt, the eidos, the structural functional whole, and it's going down from the gestalt, the words, to the individual letters, the features. It's simultaneously doing that. Your attention is also doing this. So not only is your attention flowing in and out, right, doing transparency, opacity shifting, it's also flowing up and down between feature and gestalt. Your attention is doing all of that, and it's doing it right now. And the spotlight metaphor doesn't capture any of that. And mindfulness has to do with making use of all of this complex, dynamical, remember what dynamical systems are, dynamical processing. These are dynamic, self-organizing processes, and they can be optimized. And mindfulness optimizes them in some way. So, I'm going to put something up on the board. It looks like a graph, but it's not a graph because it doesn't have absolute position. It's just a schema because it has relative position. So when I move this way, like we were talking about when we were talking about Polanyi's work, I'm doing transparency to opacity shifting. And going this way is to do transparency to opacity, and to go this way is to do opacity to transparency. It's not no position is transparent and the other is opaque. It's always the direction that matters. The more I move this way, the more I'm stepping back and looking at. The more I go this way, the more I'm indwelling and looking out into the world. Then we have this. I can be going down from the gestalt to the features, using the word to decide the letters, for example, and I can be going up from the features to the gestalt. Nothing is inherently a feature. Look, the letters are a feature in the word, but the word is a feature in the sentence. Nothing is absolutely a feature. It's always relative. That's why I'm putting these double arrows. This isn't a Cartesian graph. Okay, this is not a Cartesian graph. This is a schema. But one thing you should know is that although I can describe and you can understand these two axes independently, they're almost always operating in a highly dynamic, integrated fashion. Very often, as I'm moving towards a gestalt, grabbing a bigger picture, I'm using that bigger pattern to look more deeply into the world. So often, I'm doing this. I'm grabbing bigger patterns and I'm using those deeper patterns to look deeper into the world. Right? So when you find, this is what we do in science, for example. I find this and this and this, I get a pattern, and then I find a way to integrate it together, and then I use that pattern to look more deeply in the world. This is what this is, right? I found a pattern, and it allows me to look more deeply into the world. I'm no longer looking at these individual things, force, mass, and acceleration. I've integrated them together, and that allows me to look more deeply into the world. Often, when we're stepping back and looking at our minds, our awareness processes within attention, we're also often breaking up gestalts into features. For example, you were breaking up your experience of your whole finger into individual sections of your finger when we were doing the experiment. You were breaking up the whole of the cup into individual moments of contact. So very often, we're these two to come together. Let's call this scaling up of attention and scaling down of attention. So, first of all, let's map these onto mindfulness practices to make clear why we're doing this. So, I teach my students Vipassana. very traditional form of meditation. Notice what the word meditation means. It actually means moving towards the center. So we know it's going to have this aspect to it. So what do? Well, typically you train people by telling them to pay attention to their breath. Right? So first of all, what they're doing is paying attention not to the world, they're stepping back, but they're not really paying attention to their breath. What you tell them is the following. Again, language of explaining, not the language of training. Look at it in much more fine-grained. You tell them to pay attention to the feelings and sensations that are being generated in their abdomen as they breathe. So as they inhale, they're feeling sensations in their abdomen, and as they exhale. And what they're doing is trying to, right, do that like I did with my finger. They're trying to maintain and renew their interest, constantly make it salient to themselves. Now notice what's happening. Normally, right, our embodied sensations, I'm not happy with that word for sort of philosophically important reasons, but I don't have time to go into it right now, right? Normally, we don't pay attention so much to our sensations, we pay attention through our sensations to the world, right? So normally I'm not paying attention to my feelings, I'm paying attention through my feelings to the cup. In meditation, I'm stepping back and not looking through my sensations, I'm stepping back and looking at them. Right? That's like, I don't look through the way my mind is framing things, I'm looking at the framing. I also do something else. I don't just look at it as one blob, I do something like observational analysis. I break the gestalt up into separate experiences. I'm doing this. I'm stepping back and looking at, and I'm breaking the gestalt of my experience up into its features, its atomic features, if you'll allow me a metaphor that you shouldn't push too far. That's what you do in meditation. We'll talk about why would you do this? Why would that matter? And importantly, our question is, why would that help cause insight? So that's meditation, that's Vipassana, for example. I also teach my students a contemplative practice. So the word meditation means to move towards the center, and that fits perfectly with Vipassana and this kind of thing. Contemplation. Now it bespeaks how overly simplified the West is in trying to understand this, in that these terms are now treated as synonyms. Contemplative practices, meditative practices, it's all the same thing. Aren't these just synonyms? They're not synonyms. And paying attention to their etymology will quickly reveal this. First of all, the Latin etymology. Look, what's in the center of this is temple. It comes from a temple, which actually comes from the Latin word for a part of the sky that you look up to see the signs from the gods. To contemplate is to look up towards the divine. This also goes well and is convergent with the contemplatio. The Latin term was a translation of this Greek word, theoria. And theoria also originally doesn't mean generating a theory. A theory is a species of theoria, because what I do with theoria is I try to see more deeply into reality. You see? Meditation is moving this way, and contemplation is moving that way. Meditation emphasizes scaling down, contemplation emphasizes scaling up. And I was taught both. In fact, I was taught three things in an integrated fashion. I was taught Vipassana, a scaling down strategy. I was taught Metta, a scaling up strategy, and you're scaling up with your sense of identity, by the way. We'll come back to that later. And then I was taught Tai Chi Chuan, because Tai Chi Chuan is about moving, right? In and out, in and out, flowing between these inner and outer movements in a dynamic and optimizing fashion. Why teach me all these things together? Because it's actually a system of these psychotechnologies that will optimize your cognition for insight. Okay, so do you remember we did the 9-dot problem, right? We talked about that. Remember the fact that you can misframe things. So let's do the 9-dot problem again. join all 9 dots with 4 straight lines, and people find it difficult. Why? Remember, we talked about this. They automatically, listen to the words, remember, they automatically and unconsciously project a square there, and then they automatically take this to be a connect the dot problems, and so no non-dot turns are possible, and therefore they can't get the solution. The solution is, here's 4 straight lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. The reason why people find that so difficult is I have to break the square, and I have to not treat it as a typical connect the dot problem. I have to not treat it categorically, to use language you've heard already, because you don't do non-dot turns. Do you remember this? Now notice there's 2 moments to having an insight. I have to break up an inappropriate frame. What do I have to do? I have to break up the gestalt, right? And I also have to de-automatize my cognition. I have to make it not operate unconsciously and automatically. Well, how do I do that? I take stuff that's normally happening unconsciously and I have to bring it back into consciousness. Yes? That makes sense? How do I do that? I do that by doing a transparency opacity shift. Normally, I'm automatically sensing through my probe, but I can shift my awareness and become aware of my probe. I can bring things back into awareness. So you de-automatize cognition by doing a transparency to opacity shift. So I break up the inappropriate frame and I de-automatize my cognition by scaling down. Now, interestingly enough, there is lots of work by Novlik and other people showing that you can improve people's ability to solve insight problems if you get them to do what's called chunk decomposition and constraint relaxation. Chunk decomposition is just breaking up a gestalt. That's what chunk decomposition means. Constraint relaxation is basically de-automatizing your cognition. De-automatizing your cognition. Scaling down helps you to break up the chunks, break up the gestalts, and it helps you to de-automatize your cognition. But is that enough for insight? It's not enough. Yes, I have to break up the inappropriate frame, but I have to make an alternative and better frame. I have to, watch, I have to widen my field of awareness. I have to take stuff that was in the background and change its relevance. I have to look more deeply for deeper, broader patterns that I have not considered before. What do I have to do? In order to make a new frame, I have to scale up. And we also have lots of independent evidence, having nothing to do with mindfulness or meditation, that one of the ways you can improve people's ability to be insightful is if they get if they have training or practice or are naturally disposed to being able to scale up. If people can complete patterns in a kind of leaping that C.C. Benner and Baker talk about, right, and other people, we can scale up in that way. If we can take pictures that are out of focus and refocus them mentally so we can suddenly see what the picture is. Again and again and again, when people can scale up better, they're better at solving insight problems. So both make you better. But there's a problem, because both also make you worse. Because if I just scale up, if I just maximize, like tightening the string, then of course I will immediately project the square and then I'm locked. Well, shouldn't I just scale down? Just meditate. Always. If I just keep breaking up gestalts, I'll never make the solution. I'll choke myself. That's what happens when people are choking. You get a way, like if you're sparring with somebody, a way to get them off is to compliment them. That was a really good, right hook you just threw. Because then the person will start stepping back and looking at it, and they'll get all screwed up because they'll break up the ability to generate the gestalt. So notice what I'm saying, because stick with me, because this is really sort of tricky. This can improve your chances for insight by breaking up a bad frame. But it can also mess up your problem solving by causing you to choke. This can improve your ability for insight by causing you to make a better frame. But this can also cause you to leap into an inappropriate frame and be locked in fixation. So what should you do? You don't want the strings too tight. You don't want the strings too loose. And you don't want it just halfway. But what you want to do is you want to train people in both of these skills and then train them to flow between them. It's called opponent processing. So they're pulling and pushing on each other, and so they're forced to coordinate and constantly get the right degree of attentional engagement that is most dynamically fitted to the world. That's why people who trained me in all these things. That's why you shouldn't equate mindfulness just with meditation. It's not. So if you pay attention, for example, to the Eightfold Path, you'll have people be trained in meditative practices, contemplative practices, practices in which you flow between the opposites until you learn, like in a martial art, to get an apt and constantly adjusted fittedness, attentional fittedness to the world. Now, this leads very naturally into talking about mystical experiences, the kinds of mystical experiences that people can have within their mindfulness practices. But before I do that, let's gather. Notice what we've said here. We have an understanding of mindfulness. What's mindfulness doing? Mindfulness is basically teaching us how to appropriate and train a flexibility of attentional scaling so that we can intervene effectively in how we are framing our problems and increase the chances of insight when insight is needed. Notice that this didn't really how is being present making you more insightful? But I've given you a way of understanding being present that works. When I'm scaling down, I'm actually like making my mind less representational, less inferential. I'm doing all of this work to become aware of and gain some mastery over my processes of problem framing, and thereby training skills that will make me more insightful. What happens if you were just to scale down and practice scaling down and scaling down and scaling down and scaling down? Well, you can actually get to one kind of important mystical experience. So Foreman calls this, and it's well attested, calls this the pure consciousness event, the PCE. The pure consciousness event. It's a kind of mystical experience you can have after extensive mindfulness practice. I've experienced this. Let's do it. So right now I'm looking at the world, and the thing you're doing when you're practicing meditation is you try and step back and look at the lens of your mind, if you'll allow me. And what happens is it's hard to maintain because you have such deep developed habits of directing your attention back out towards the world, and you start thinking about, got to do my laundry, got to do this, and then what you have to do is you have to bring your attention back again. You have to do that. You have to recenter and step back and look at your mind rather than automatically looking through it, and you keep practicing, and that's like that, and it's arduous. But these are like doing reps. That's meditation. Meditation is like you're building this ability to step back and look at your mind. And then what happens is, right, remember how we went back in layers? We went into the probe, and then into our fingers, and into the sensations. When I do this with people, it's often the people who've had some mindfulness training that can step back all the way into their sensations. That's not a coincidence. So now I'm looking at my mind, right? And then I start looking at the more subsidiary layers of my mind, the deeper layers by which I was looking at the upper layers. And then I step back again, So now I'm just looking at my consciousness. And eventually I step back and I'm not even conscious of anything. I'm not conscious of this sensation. I'm just conscious. That's why it's called the pure consciousness event. You're not conscious of anything. You're just fully present as consciousness. You're not aware of yourself. You're not looking through your self machinery. You're not looking through your consciousness. You're not even looking through your mind. You're just fully conscious. The pure consciousness event. This is the event that results from this. What about if you were to really scale up? Well, think about things that you might have heard associated with the Buddhist view. I'm going to see everything as interconnected and everything is flowing and permanent. I'm going to create this overarching gestalt, and the gestalt is going to be so overarching, it's going to include and encompass me. I'm going to experience this resonant at one-ment. And you already know what that's like because we've already talked about it. Think about that as just a super flow state in which I'm deeply at one with everything. Super flow state. Resonant at one-ment. I don't use atonement because that has a particular Christian meaning that I'm not trying to invoke here, at one-ment. See, this model of mindfulness explains why people get into these kinds of mystical experiences. If they do a lot of meditative practices, they will get a pure consciousness event. If they do a lot of contemplative practices, they will develop this empathetic, participatory, flowing, super-flowing, resonant at one-ment. But remember, what we want ultimately is we want these two together. There's a third state, and this is actually the state that matters. This is called the state of non-duality. So let me try and explain to you a way in which you can at least imagine you could get into it. It's a way I train people. Imagine that you're going to be cycling, scaling up and scaling down with your breath. So as you inhale, you scale up, and you do that sort of resonant at one-ment. You're trying to be at flowing at one-ment with everything, and then as you exhale, you're doing the Vipassana. You're trying to step back as close as you can to the pure consciousness event, and you oscillate back and forth with the breath. And you often have to do that for years. But what can happen, and there's other ways of getting into this state. This isn't exclusive. This is one way I was taught. What can happen is you can have the third kind of mystical experience. It's not the pure consciousness event. It's not resonant at one-ment. It includes both and transcends both. It's both at the same time. Your awareness is deeply to the depths of your consciousness and deeply to the depths of reality, and it's completely at one. It's all at once. This is a prajna state, a state of non-duality. This is one term for wisdom. This is kind of mystical experience. Now this is the state that's actually sought for, that non-duality, because this is the state that should lead to a comprehensive capacity for insight. Because you're not going to have an insight about 9 dots and 4 straight lines. You're going to have an insight into the fundamental, the guts, the grammar of the agent-arena relationship. You're pushing to the ground of the agent, and you're pushing out to the circumference of the arena, and you're pushing that machinery to optimize so that you can see in as deeply integrated a fashion as possible that connectedness between the two. So you have the capacity for an insight, not into this problem or that problem, but in an insight and into your existential modes of being. This is how you can remember the being mode. You can have a fundamental insight into it. Now this is in fact, of course, what Siddhartha experienced. He'd been practicing Vipassana and a contemplative practice called metta, very deeply, very powerfully, and it looks like one of his great innovations was to conjoin the two together. He often talks about them. And what happened was a radical transformation. He experienced enlightenment. We're going to talk about what that might mean. So after his enlightenment, after his awakening, he's walking down the road, and people come up to him, and his visage is changed. Think about when you are watching, when you see somebody and you know they're in the flow state, and they're flowing. That grace and that energy and the musicality of intelligibility that's playing across their face and their gestures and their motions. And most of it you're only picking up implicitly, but you've got a sense, what's going, oh, that's so beautiful, that's so graceful, that's so much power, and there's a charismatic, and you're just caught up in it. So these men are approaching Siddhartha, and he's filled with that. And so they say to him, "Are you a god?" Think about what conditions have to be like where that's a reasonable thing to ask of someone. And he answers very clearly, "No, I'm not." "Are you some kind of angelic messenger or being?" "No, I'm not." "Are you some kind of prophet?" "No, I'm not." "Are you just a man?" "No, I'm not." They're frustrated. "What are you then?" "I am awake." That's how he gets his title. He moves from talking about an identity he could have to a fundamental way of being. I am awake. He has fully, deeply, the depths I've tried to indicate here, sati, remembered the being mode in a way that isn't an insight about this or that problem, but is a fundamental insight into what it is to be a human being. A systematic set of insights that optimizes your entire being, that triggers and empowers a fundamental transformative experience. So, as a cognitive scientist, especially one who studies the connections between Buddhism and cognitive science, I've become very interested in these kinds of experiences that people have. And I have colleagues and collaborators who are also interested in them. Why do people pursue altered states of consciousness? Why is the mindfulness revolution, which is the pursuit of altered states of consciousness, so powerful? Why are we going through the psychedelic revolution right now? Because unlike other therapeutic pharmaceuticals, psychedelics work exactly by bringing about an altered state of consciousness. Why is this so powerfully important? Why is it that we're not the only creatures, in fact, that pursue altered states of consciousness? It looks like the more intelligent a creature is, the more it will pursue altered states of consciousness. Caledonian crows will tumble down rooftops in order to make themselves dizzy, which is a risky thing to do, but they do it because they're enjoying the altered state of consciousness. Why is it that some of these altered states, mystical experiences, certain types of psychedelic experiences within a therapeutic context, we're going to talk about all of this, can bring about and afford such powerful transformations? What is it that's going on there? And here's what's interesting. Sometimes people will have a kind of altered state of consciousness that, in my mind, it recapitulates the axial revolution. Look, normally when you have an altered state of consciousness, let's pick up on Siddhartha's metaphor, awakening, wakening up. That's in contrast to being asleep, to dreaming. So what happens in your typical state of altered state of consciousness, one that you experience every night? You're dreaming. And when you're in the dream state, you think that that world is real. You interact with it as if real, but when you wake up, you go, oh, that was just a dream. That wasn't real. This is real. This. Normally, when we come out of an altered state of consciousness, we point at it the finger of rejection and say, that isn't real. Oh, I was drunk. That's not real. Oh, I was high. That's not real. But sometimes people have certain kinds of experiences, altered states of consciousness, in which exactly the opposite occurs. They go into that state and they come back and they say, that was more real. That was really real. And this is less real. Do you see how that's axial? That's like, wait, that higher, why do we call it a higher state of consciousness? That higher state of consciousness, that I had access to the real world. And when I come back, like somebody in Plato's cave, I've come back out of the sunlight. This, I now realize, is only echoes and shadows. It's less real. In fact, because of my desire to be in contact with what's real, I'm going to change myself and I'm going to change my world to try and recapture, sati, to remember what that's like. I want to live in greater contact with that really real. And so they start to transform their whole lives and their whole self. The whole agent-arena relationship is completely and radically, revolutionarily restructured. This is known as quantum change theory. Bad name, good theory. People do this. This is, of course, very important for understanding what happened to people like Siddhartha. In fact, most of the world religions that emerge at the axial revolution are predicated on the idea that there are higher states of consciousness that should empower, challenge, and encourage us to engage in such quantum transformations. You go through these radical transformative experiences. So obviously at the core of Buddhism, you experience Satori, right? You realize shunyata. It's at the core, right, of Vedanta. When I experience moksha and release, it's at the core of Taoism. I realize the Tao. So, how is it, right, that these experiences have such authority? But it's not just that they're important historically, right? They're at the core of the world religions, right? And you say, well, what about the Western? Like Sufism within Islam and the Christian mystic tradition and Kabbalah, like all of the world traditions point to these higher states of consciousness that can bring about these radical, modal transformations in our cognition and our very being. But that's important enough. But like when you do surveys, you look at some of the work that's been done, 30 to 40% of the population has experienced these events. And it's like flow across cultures, language groups, socioeconomic status, gender, pervasive and universal. Not universal in the sense that everybody has it, but universal in the sense that there doesn't seem to be any type, class, or order of human beings that is not capable of experiencing it. So both qualitatively, historically, and quantitatively, scientifically, it's like this is an important phenomenon. And here's what's really important for our purposes. There's a deep remember I said before, there's a deep connection between how often you flow and how meaningful you find your life. That is also more radically the case for these states. People who have experienced these higher states of consciousness and undergone these quantum changes, these deep transformational experiences, reliably report, and there's good experimental evidence to support it, that they have had a significant increase in meaning in life. In fact, many people report these experiences as the most significant in their life, and that a lot of the meaning of their life is hinged upon these transformations. There are deep connections between awakening and recovering meaning. There are deep connections between awakening and insight. As I've already indicated, we'll come back to see there's a deep continuity between this kind of insight, mystical experience, and full-blown awakening experience. My lab, we've just finished running with my associate Anderson Todd, my lab director, lab manager, Jinsun Kim, all of my wonderful RAs. And they'll show up in the acknowledgement. We just have submitted a paper because we ran an experiment. We did a massive MTurk survey trying to see if there was a relationship between if people have a mystical experience and how meaningful they find their lives. And there is in fact a significant relationship between mystical experience and if you have meaning in life. We did a more fine-grained analysis, and this is consonant with the work of Samantha Heinzelman and others, experimental work showing that it's something like a capacity for insight, making sense, which is often called coherence in the literature, that seems to be what's doing all the heavy lifting. So it doesn't really matter, if you'll allow me, so much what the content of your mystical experience is. In fact, very often, there's no content. They're ineffable. But what seems to be happening is you're somehow optimizing your capacity for making sense, both inwardly and outwardly. It's like what's happening is some improved optimization of anagoge.
Love doesn't make sense.
And people find that deeply meaningful. So there is good reason to believe. I'm not advocating Buddhism here, because I've already pointed out there are similar claims in all of the mystical traditions, and I'm not claiming that those traditions are all identical. I'm not Aldous Huxley. But there seems to be some deep truths here about the nature of attention, the nature of mindfulness, and the enhancement of the ability to enter into these higher states of consciousness that can significantly alleviate existential distress and bring about a profound kind of optimization of our insight and our capacity for finding our lives meaningful. And that would be being able to do all of those things, right? Alleviate the existential anxiety, create a systematic kind of insight, a transformation of agents in an arena that recovers the being mode. Forge transformation. I mean, isn't that the core of meaning? And the ability to do it, wouldn't that be the core of wisdom? So what I want to do is I want to continue on, and I want to explore this. What's going on with mystical experiences? What's going on with these higher states of consciousness? Why are psychedelics coming back into the center of the cognitive science investigation? We've got to talk about consciousness. We've got to talk about altered states of consciousness. We've got to talk about higher states of consciousness and transformative experience. And what is the knowing that's going on here? Because it's no knowing of words. There's no words. There's no content. Pure consciousness event. You're not conscious of anything. Everything's the same. It's just, there's the resonant at one minute, the flowing. What kind of knowing is it? That's what we're going to take a look at next time. Thank you very much.
Crisis and chill.
Consciousness.
MEANINGWAVE or sort of a sound, make some noise for Vervaeke, John and Akira The Don, and that Meaning Crisis and chill. What a time to be alive. Whoa. Hey. What's cracking, baby? How you all feeling out there? How did you
How did that strike you? I mean, what to say? How'd you enjoy that? Maybe you didn't even enjoy it. Maybe it was something other than enjoyment. Dan Frank says, so sad it's over so soon. We'll be back next week. Don't you worry about a thing. We'll be back next week. Don't you worry about a thing. How was that for you, MAC? What did we learn? What did we enjoy? What did we not enjoy? What XP? What's up, baby? Says, bro, that was no joke. B. Athena says, things make more sense when you realize most things don't make sense. Boor! Says ÄkaSora. ÄkaSora. Dun, 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 dun. Nick Myoga says, I am totally going to register to all of these in entirety. Yo, Swifty Blot says, I am awake! That was that bruh moment. That was real nice. Orinoco Wellington says, transformational. Ooh. Christopher Fernandez says, Gestalt is life. Who was playing the Gestalt drinking game? Take a shot every time your boy says Gestalt. I mean, someone should put together the Meaning Crisis and Chill drinking game. Or maybe a kettlebell game. You have to swing it. You can drink or swing a kettlebell. Or you have to do 10 push-ups or something. Just stop! Word XP, contrasting contemplation and meditation was great, right? Look up! Look up! ÄkaSora says input equals output. Grant Kelly, important reminder to connect without, not just within. What is this body for? After all, what were we talking about last week on the biblical studies? Christianity in particular holds the body in very high regard. Riley Aaron says, thank you for the insight and thank you for your JP work. I supported the vinyl. Hey, thank you. Thank you for supporting the vinyl. That's very nice of you. Shout out to everyone who's about the vinyl. Sativa Skunk, I enjoyed the correlation of meditational mind practices I've heard and the way it's presented here. A lot of pointers. Word XP, have you experienced the Pure Consciousness event, Akira? I mean, I didn't know it was called that. Yeah. Christopher Hernandez, thank you as always, Johnny V and Akira The Don. Swifty Block, body is the lens of the mind. Nick Myoga, I think it's interesting people seem to be seeking the PCE through meditation, but what they're really after is the oneness feeling in all likelihood. ÄkaSora says aesthetic. Robert Easley says quantum change theory fascinated me. Shit name, says Vicky John. Jealousy Lucy says sober altered states of consciousness are the best. What's up, Andrew Pullman? What's up, Rachel Tracy says we playing. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we am. Meaning Crisis and Chill. Sergio says makes for a focused, intense workout. While you working out to this shit, that's epic. Nice. Nice, baby, nice. Just out. Yo, let's get some. I want a Just Out t-shirt. Yeah. Hey. Word XP says, I think Joe Rogan experienced PCE with the 5-MeO DMT. I remember saying he had no sense of self. Christopher Hernandez says this is the play on demand that Alan Watts was talking about. Just stop. Nick Mayaga says need more contemplation. Quite. That's the best bit. And you can always listen back. You can always replay. You go, just stop. You know? Just stop. Rachel Tracy says, I had to pop another can. Akira The Don. That better not be a euphemism. Rachel Tracy. Nick Mayaga, sorry, that wasn't exactly what I meant to say. More like people are led more to meditation, and hence they experience PCE, and then confuse the nothingness with the oneness because we lack contemplation. Sheila Ferreira, 2 more shots for the Gestalt. Gestalt! Rachel Tracy, ayahuasca? Anyone? Yeah, it's funny you should mention that. Funny you should mention that. Alright, you beautiful babies, I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you all for being here for Meaning, Crisis and Chill with Vervaeke, John and Akira The Don. We got a big one tomorrow, baby. We got a big one tomorrow. It's the Biblical Series. Biblical Activities with Jordan B. Peterson and Akira The Don. Tomorrow here on the Meaning stream. Whatever weird shit goes down tomorrow, or doesn't, really doesn't make that much of a difference to us because we'll be here. We'll be here enjoying the Meaning stream, enjoying the live scoring of Jordan Peterson's Biblical Lecture Series. It's going to be another epic one. These ones are intense, these ones are joyful and wonderful. That's what we're doing. We will also be here tomorrow morning, of course. For the Meaning Wave Morning Show. Twitch Hero Alex, are you lurking around anywhere? YouTube Hero Alex, can you pull Twitch Hero Alex out of the basement and have him spin this wheel for us, please? Spin the wheel, please. And that way we can know what the blessed glory we're going to be doing tomorrow. Because that's what we're doing right now. It feels like it works. I'm enjoying it. Oop, there we go. Ooh, tomorrow, Rhythm and Blues. We will be kicking off our show with Rhythm and Blues, baby. R&B. So see us there for a slinky morning, a soulful morning, a bopping morning. R&B covers many territories, of course. R&B is essentially it's like a casual, you know, you've got like rock. It's like a higher tier genre, I guess. Rock, right? Lots of things are encompassed within rock. You know, country, metal, boogie woogie. You know, lots of things within rock, you would say. Similarly, lots of things within hip hop. You know, trap, everything in the charts. Lots of things within pop. R&B, similarly, is a large castle. Within R&B, you will find soul, funk, disco, all these things. And of course, R&B is also, you know, you could also consider it a smaller genre of its own. Of course, love-making music. You know, Aaliyah, Stevie, you know, The Dream. Might play a bunch of The Dream. Sade, obviously Sade. Obviously Rachel Tracy. Oh my goodness, how could we not? Maybe I'll just play Sade all morning. Oh! So we'll see you tomorrow morning, baby. On the Meaning Wave Morning Show, the Club of Meaning, on TWITCH. See if that campaign moved during that broadcast. See if there was any movement towards glory in the direction of heaven or hell. Maybe it's gone back. Wait, what? Yeah, it's gone back. Yay, it's gone down. I'm so confused by that. It's got the same amount of backers on one thing as another. Anyway, whatever. We're going in the right direction, I think. Onward to glory! Nick Mayoga said it was Sade's birthday yesterday, really? Zach Sanderson says, what about Otis Redding? He's R&B, right? Or just soul? Well, soul is within R&B. So yeah, there's no just soul either, bloody hell. Oh! All right, baby, everyone go back that campaign. Word XP says, what? It went up. I'm so confused, I don't know where it was before. Where was it before? I don't even know anymore. I honestly think I'm hallucinating at this point. Oh! No, it was like 32500. Anyway, whatever. We're getting out of here. Go back that campaign. I think somebody realized they need to pay their rent and canceled their monolith or something. Everyone go pack the campaign! Yes, Mason, Thursday album release party. Exactly that. Exactly that. And we're getting out of here. 3, 2, 1. Bye!